Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the City of Bunbury Business Improvement Workshops. My name is Shauna Willis, and I have the lucky job of being your facilitator for today. We wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wadandi Noongar, and pay our respects to elders, past, present and emerging. Now, the City has partnered with BSW Connect to bring you this 4-week workshop series. Now, all designed to help bring your business online and to move it online, to learn how to run your business online safely, to identify the different marketing platforms available and, of course, their purposes, and how you can grow or expand your business through connection and through collaboration. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping before we do continue. You will notice that everyone is on mute, and we kindly ask that you use the chat function for any comments or questions. Now, you will find that chat function along the bottom of your screen, just along here. There we go. Bingo. So do feel free, for those of us who are online today, maybe to drop us a hello and let us know that you're here and how you're going. Great to see you. Thank you. We do have a few participants here today in the room with us, and they're going to be using the old-fashioned pen and paper to pass on any questions. Good morning or good afternoon to you, Robin. Hi, everyone. And from Kate, hello as well to you. Right, our presenter today is Anthony Congdon from Rethink Marketing. He has over 20 years' experience in e-commerce. He's known to think outside the box when it comes to business solutions. He's here today to show you how your business can move and win online. So I'm handing over to you, Anthony. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Shauna. Anthony here, and really what I'd like to do today is provide a really interactive session where we start to explore the process of taking a business into the online economy. It can be quite overwhelming when we look at the volume of things that we need to learn and discover and apply to our business. But what I want to do today is really focus it in on just the important decisions that you're going to have to make early in the process to work out a way forward. So at the very core of the process is starting with that question, why? And really that question helps us to define all of the subsequent answers. If we look at moving into an online business, there's a lot of different drivers a business might have. You might want to be looking to drive leads, to provide better customer support, to actually close online transactions and sales and make a sale online, to open your business 24/7. And when we understand what those purposes are and what those objectives we're looking to achieve out of the project, we can get a much better handle on the things that we're going to have to do to go forward. So just a quick straw poll across the participants today. What are your objectives in terms of moving into an online business? You pop it into the group chat. We've got a couple of different reasons there that people have explained, including growing more sales, building better relationships with their customers, and I guess ultimately all of these things come down to is creating a better experience and value for your customer. Accessing global markets is a really valid reason, Kate, and that's one of the beauties of an online space is that we aren't bound by geography. If we've got a story and a product which is world class and willing to reach a much wider market, or perhaps even a very narrower market that we can't reach in our local area. We might have something which is targeted towards a very small niche group of people who, locally there might be a handful, but across the globe there's a lot more of them. The next question is who? Who exactly are we looking to reach? Or for any grammarians out there, whom should have been the correct word that I used. But defining that persona and the exact detail of the customer that we're looking to reach is going to make our life a heck of a lot easier. If you could stop for a second and just give a little bit of thought as to the exact nature of your customer, I think you're going to go a lot further in your online marketing activities. It'll help us channel the tone of voice that we're looking to reach in terms of our social media and even the content within our website. It'll help us in the selection of photos and images which convey that message to them throughout the website project. But most importantly, it'll help us with our purpose. Because when we understand what that customer is and what matters to them, we can make sure that we communicate the right message that's authentic and real for them. Once we understand that customer, we can then start that really important process of mapping the customer journey. And that customer journey walks through the process from their initial, even before they've got awareness of a problem, their initial stages, right through the process of attracting the customer so that they find us, building up our awareness with them, engaging with them through the sales process, building trust, ultimately winning the business. And the most important part of it, turning them into an ongoing, loyal, valuable customer for our business that we have a good relationship with. Mapping out that journey and the steps that follow it are really important for us. And we use a tool called the Customer Journey Map, which has been pioneered by a group called Columbia Road. And this map, as difficult as it is to see here, maps out the level of engagement by the customer at different steps, maps out the processes that we need to take as a business, the entities within our business or the job roles that are responsible for that process, and the things we need to do to lift our game or to improve that operation in terms of how we engage with them. We'll make available a templated form of this customer journey map for you, and it's worth sitting down and taking a little bit of time to map out what that process the customer goes through is. Because when you understand that, you can understand more about how you can create value for them at each step in the process. A good example of a company who identified a problem with that was a product I purchased recently, which, contrary to the IKEA instructions, said it's really simple to put up. They'd had quite a detailed video process after you bought the product of how to assemble. And perhaps being a different chromosomal makeup to women, I looked at it and said, I'm going to go and jump straight into the job, which I did. And instead of a big instruction manual there, they had a simple link to a YouTube video which you had to which you had the opportunity to watch. And that done it at double time, so it took half as long to watch. And by watching this video, I got over a barrier which I'd expect they would have had with their product, which a lot of people would have bought it and gone, it's too hard. It's just too difficult for me to assemble this. That then got over that barrier, ended up with a good product that I was happy with, and the ultimate outcome was a better customer experience. So that's one of the examples of a step where somebody has looked at part of the process and said, this is how we can make the experience better. Often we focus on the front end, so things like advertising, SEO or search engine optimization, email marketing or social media to bring people into our sphere of influence. But quite often the real value is actually created after the sale's been made. So what's changed in the last couple of months? If you speak to a lot of people, you'll realise that their behaviours have changed. They've looked at, perhaps, a lot of older people are making their first online purchase. There's been a lot of people who are signing up to services like Zoom, which we're using here today, that maybe a year ago you wouldn't have even known about. So we're accessing these new tools and we're using these new technologies. And as a result of that, the way we've done things in the past has actually changed. A great example is my mother, who's in her 70s and recently in the March-April period, placed her first online orders with Coles. Now, normally when she'd go to the supermarket, she'd go to the deli, she'd go to another shop which sold the bread and somewhere else which bought something else. But when she realised she could have everything delivered to the door and she'd be safe, which was quite a serious concern at that time, it became an easy process. And we get 3 or 4 weeks of reinforcement of that behaviour. And after the change, she's no longer going to the supermarket. And I'd imagine there's a lot of older people who have changed behaviours quite substantially in that space. That kind of change often takes, honestly, decades to happen, really. Whereas what's happened with this recent experience is a lot of our customers have changed, in a period of weeks or months. So we need to be looking at that, and the old adage that business as usual is how we're going to keep doing things no longer applies. We've really got a new set of paradigms that we've got to adopt to. When we're looking at how we take our business online, there is a plethora of channels. We've got all of those different mediums that we can reach our customers, from social media to search engines to email marketing to customer relationship management. We've got our websites and all of these tools which are available to us here that actually, when we get them all working together, we adopt a process we call omni-channel marketing. And omni-channel marketing is focused centrally on bringing a consistent approach across all of those channels, have them working in harmony together. There's a lot of businesses who've perhaps fallen into the trap of using one tool or another tool to build a business, only to discover that perhaps, given that we're using somebody else's tools like social media platforms, if those platforms decide to change their rules, or even search engines change their algorithms, which happens regularly, we can be wiped out. So our approach is always focused on building a really solid base across all of those channels so that everything works in harmony together, and you're not too reliant on any particular platform. So let's start at looking at the hub of all of our digital marketing. It's the one thing that you actually can own, which is your website or the apps if they're relevant to your business. And really, there's a lot of people who've asked us the question, do we actually need a website in 2020? Can't we just do it via Facebook? And the short answer to that is yes, absolutely. There are some very successful businesses that have built everything on Facebook or Instagram or any other platform that you can list. But the reality with that is you are building on rented ground. And all of a sudden, at some point, when Facebook says, oh, we don't like you, or you've broken one of our rules, or some other indiscretion you may have complied or not complied with their guidelines with, you can lose everything. So we say that the website sits as really at the hub of all of your marketing activities in an online space, because you own it, you can build authority and trust. If you think about the number of times you've been given a referral to go to somebody for a service, one of the first things that we intuitively do is we'll search for that business, we'll look at their website and see if we can trust them. And so I call that a warm lead conversion. But effectively, you've had a look at it, you've seen, yes, they are the real deal, I'll then make contact. Often, it happens that you search for the business and there's nothing there, which can ring a bit of an alarm bell, and you might then think, well, I'll have another look and see what else I can find. And so you've missed out on an opportunity which really would have been ripe and ready for you. The fact that you own your website is equally valuable too. When you build and design your website and you've got your page there on the internet, you've got your little address, which is yourbusinessname.com.au, you find that that's a little place on the whole internet which you're absolutely in complete control about. And that becomes findable, which links back to our earlier process there too. So people can actually identify you, they can engage with you, and you've got your own little patch of dirt that really belongs to you. And it's completely customisable to suit your brand, whatever that happens to be. First step in that process is grabbing your domain name. So that's your mybusiness.com.au. And there's a lot of different schools of thought on it. My thinking is keep it really simple. So don't try and be too clever by half. Focus on a name which is easy to find. You can choose to perhaps make it local. If you are a local business, it doesn't hurt to have, if you're a lawyer in Bunbury, having the website bunburylawyer.com.au does make it pretty easy for people who are Googling and searching for a Bunbury lawyer to find your particular business. Keep it short. If you happen to have a long or difficult to spell name, you'll know how hard it is over the phone when you're telling people your name or your address. I happen to have both. And you really want to keep it nice and short and simple and easy for people to type in online. And being memorable as well. You know, so if you've got a catchphrase which you happen to use all the time in your business, it might be that it's too easy. You can use that within your domain name, so that becomes the name of your business. It's tooeasy.com.au or tooeasycomputing.com.au is one of the participants here today. That becomes something that's really easy for people to find. A really important thing before you register it is to write it down and look at that domain name in all the different ways you could break up that domain name and the spelling of it. There's a story of a fun park in the US on a place called Penn Island. And when they put their name down and registered the domain name, all of a sudden they found they were getting traffic for people that perhaps weren't looking for a fun park. And I think it's important that we look at that, make sure you don't have anything there, but equally look at who your competitors are. You know, if you've got a business which might be a local business and you're, we wouldn't do this, but if your name is, Nike Bunbury, you'd probably find that you're going to be in trouble later on when Nike say that we're going to have your name. But it might be a brand that's not known to you, but is very popular in another market. And the problem with that is that the other entity might be a .com and you a .com.au. That other entity will always outrank you in the search results. So it becomes hard for people to find you and do business with you. Once we've got our domain name, our next step is choosing, first of all, whether we want to go down the road of a content managed system, which is focused on presenting great quality content to our customers, engaging with them, or actually an e-commerce platform. And if you're looking at an e-commerce platform, that's where we're talking about transacting and completing online sales within your website, or even perhaps a step back, it might be a large catalogue of products, it might be a quoting system where people can identify products that they want to quote and order a quote basket from you. And for e-commerce platforms, we tend to suggest an e-commerce platform to achieve that outcome. And there are a couple which are really becoming quite well known. Shopify and WooCommerce account for collectively about 60% of all e-commerce websites in the top 1 million websites. There are other platforms which have some really powerful capabilities, such as Magento, BigCommerce, Volution, and there's several others that are available as well. But I tend to suggest if we're starting out, find something that you're comfortable with and you can work with, or have a partner who can work with you on one of those platforms. Personally, I'm a bit of a advocate of open source software. So that's where you can really engage anybody who's got that capability across that platform. There's a large community behind it who can build those things out for you. And WooCommerce is our go-to platform for small businesses. It works really well with WordPress, and it can plug into a lot of inventory management or point of sale systems so that you get complete control over your inventory. You're not selling things you don't have in stock, your prices are correct, etc. If it's a content managed site, so you're looking at building the content out on the website, then the platforms like Weebly and Wix and Squarespace, as well as WordPress, which works together with WooCommerce, are really your choices in that space. There's a lot more. There's platforms that people may have used in the past that still have some presence, but these ones are really the largest player in the market and have the most support, the most active developer communities. And that means that you're really, you're betting on something in terms of your time and energy that you place onto it, which is a little bit safer than perhaps going out onto the fringe, unless you've got a really particularly good reason. The one thing I will say here, though, is that we would strongly advocate every business these days uses a content management system. In the old days, a web developer used to code out a website for you in hard code, and it would be loaded up and you'd be stuck with it. And every time you want to change a word on a page, you'd need to re-engage with them, get them to change that word for you, and off you go. Today, all of these platforms are designed such that you as the business owner can actively manage the content on your site. And indeed you should be. It shouldn't be a static document which goes up and we're done, once and done. It should be something that you come back and you re-engage with and you refresh on a continuous basis. So that ultimately brings us to the question, do we do it ourselves or do we hire a developer? And the core question here for you to think about is one versus time versus money. A lot of businesses, when we're first starting out, we don't have a great deal of money, but we certainly have an abundance of time and a lot of energy to put into it. And the DIY equation may fit for those. If you're willing to put the effort into learning new things, you will have a valuable asset there in terms of that skill set, as well as the ultimate outcome in the website that will get you there. Alternatively, if you engage with a developer, pick somebody who works well with you. It's got to be that little element of a click there that works together with your business. They can get you and get what you're looking to achieve. And choosing someone who you think is appropriate there for you in that space is worthwhile. With our online shopping, taking a step back, the things that we really need to get our head around are integrations. Are we looking to just list these products and sell them at a set price for all time? Or do we need it to plug in to our accounting system, to our point of sale system, to our shipping partners? Getting our head around that is really important for us to sort of work out what we're going to be doing with it. And that's where those platforms we mentioned earlier on have got some terrific plug-in software available to them that talks to those systems. And understanding that, looking at how you store that data today is quite an important thing for you to consider. Shipping is another one. And it's easy to get really hooked up on shipping. We've come across people over the years who've spent months and months measuring and weighing every item of their inventory to realise that probably 90% of what they have can fit into a 3 kilo postage bag and be sent out. Don't worry about it. If that's the case, my suggestion is you try and solve the majority of your products for the majority of conditions and majority of destinations and pick a flat fee that you apply. One of the most rewarding experiments we ever did was with an online store where we lifted the price of every item in the store by $10 and gave away free shipping. And we compared the results of the free shipping version versus the standard shipping version and discovered that we were selling 3 times as much when you offered free shipping as you were when you charged for it. So people were happy to pay a little bit more if they got it shipped free. And the reason for that's quite human. We've all done it. You go through the whole process of adding your products to the basket, you fill in your details, and then at the very end of the process, you get a nasty surprise. No one likes surprises, particularly not expensive ones. So trying to remove that friction in the process and make it as easy for people to check out and go through could be worthwhile. But equally, every business is different, and it's worth exploring it. If you're selling, $2 items, you're not going to be able to afford to give away free shipping on them. Our last one is our payments. This used to be something that was really complex and needed a specialist team of developers to be able to create the code, to be able to integrate to the banks, to be able to develop the systems and the security platforms that would allow us to make an online payment. Today, pretty much every online payment provider has an API that's available. An API is an application programming interface. It's a set of code which is uniform and designed to talk to another set of code from a provider or a website. What this means is the process of hooking up an online payment to go with your website has been streamlined from something that would have taken days or weeks to something that takes minutes. And that makes things so much easier for you to be able to take those payments on your website. It's no longer the barrier that it once was. And next part of our omni-channel mix is social media. I've got the little sub-note there. It's called social for a reason. And that's one of the things we often forget. Facebook is not an ad platform. It's not a place where you put ads like we do in the newspaper to continue to serve, to reach our market. It's a place where we're looking to really engage with people in a meaningful way. So going back to our first step of looking at our who will help us understand our platform that we're going to work with. We've got the big 5 or 6 up here, depending on how you look at it, which are your Facebook, YouTube, Twitter to a lesser extent, unless you're working in certain segments in Australia, LinkedIn, which is very solid in your B2B space, Snapchat, which is certainly starting to pick up a lot of traction amongst the younger people, and Instagram, which equally has its own space there, particularly in the product discovery. In our subsequent session in a couple of weeks' time, Lauren from Moshi Moshi is going to take a deep dive into all of those platforms, the best approaches, best ways to engage with them, and really encourage you to come back and join us for that session, which is about 3 weeks away. In the meantime, though, a couple of the things which we always advocate is with our social media, we've got to start with a plan. Because if you don't have a plan, you're going to spend a hell of a lot more time thinking about what you're going to say. And you're maybe not always going to be on brand. Looking at making sure the message you share is genuine and real and authentic. There's no coincidence the platform called Facebook tends to prefer faces in the pictures. If you share pictures of real people having real experiences with you, or your real staff engaging with your customers, you can be certain that you're going to end up with a much higher level of engagement, a much higher level of brand loyalty and exposure there on the platforms as well. Using these platforms as an opportunity to listen is perhaps one of the most overlooked things that we've seen in businesses. In the past, if you were to do a market research project, you'd have to go out and really survey a large group of people to be able to pick up attitudes and thoughts and see where people are in order to discern a market problem. Today, we have got access to this huge wealth of knowledge in terms of what problems people are experiencing. The ask and answer pages are fantastic for just listening. You don't have to participate, but just have a look through at the kind of experiences that people are having, the problems there, and you'll start to identify market opportunities which are not being met in your own market here. And you can, using that information, make the decisions to adapt and adopt your own business models. Be engaging. As I said earlier on, saying the same thing 10 again, we sell stuff, is not the approach that we really need to adopt in these platforms. The approach that we really need to look at is, this is a story and we'd like you to be part of it. And being consistent. So sharing that same tone of voice and same message out there time and again really does build up a strong following amongst our audience. If we're a brand which steps on or jumps into political discussions, then so be it. But if we're not, then the question is, why are we doing that? There's some brands out there which have done it really well. I think Lorna Jane is one of the ones which I've been really impressed with their approach of adopting feminist issues and feminist themes in a lot of the content they put out. It really resonates with their marketplace. On the flip side of that, there's brands like Pepsi who've come across as being quite exploitative. They brought an ad out a number of years back now with Kylie Jenner jumping into the front of a protest, offering the police at a Black Lives Matter protest a Pepsi and giving a protest to one and saying, see, we all have to drink Pepsi, we'll be happy. And of course, pretty much everyone's looked at that and gone, you've taken a white supermodel, brought them into this situation and haven't added any to the discussion, you've just exploited the situation. So being consistent is really about focusing on sharing your story, being real with your business and not trying to capitalise on opportunities. I think in Australia, some of the ones we've seen over the last couple of years, one of the most dangerous times of years for brands is Anzac Day, where you'll see some really bad examples of businesses who are saying, you know, support the Anzacs and come and buy some biscuits from our shop. People just don't take to it very well at all. And building a great network is really valuable to you. So it's about building those advocates and building the engagement with your existing customers and the people who value that relationship with you on those platforms. Some of the things that we've kind of touched on already about social media must-nots. There's no shortcuts. You can't buy likes. You can, but they're worth nothing to you. In fact, they're not just worth nothing, they're a negative there for your business in the big sense. Trying to sell before you're engaging. You wouldn't do it in person. So you wouldn't go into a business networking event or a family social gathering and say, hey, I sell this stuff, you really should buy it. And if you do, you're probably not going to be well received. So don't do that on these online platforms. Use it as an opportunity to help people solve problems. Putting all your eggs in one basket is a really big one. And one of the clients we've dealt with has really done so well in this space. She had a market store-based business where she'd been building an email database as well as advertising and growing her followership on Facebook and Instagram as well. And at some point, Facebook took a dislike to one of the products she was selling, which had been legitimately sourced, and said, that's it, we're cutting you off, you've lost your Facebook page, and because your Instagram is connected to that, we're turning that off as well. Now, if she'd built her entire business based on that Facebook following, it would have been catastrophic. Close the doors, go home, that's the end of it. But because she'd built those direct relationships with her customers via email, and she had that email database that meant she could continue to work with them, it was a road bump, not to be underestimated, but it wasn't a catastrophe, and it meant she could continue going forward with the business, which has been a huge achievement for her. And just that little bit of protection. Spamming your audience is another, don't do it. If people don't hear you the first time and don't resonate to you the first time, you wouldn't just keep saying the same thing. So why do it online? We see a lot of people posting the same trivial ads across every community notice board in the Southwest in the hope that if people didn't see it somewhere else, they'll see it here and they'll want to come and buy off us. I'm sorry, guys, but we don't. We don't want to come and buy off people who spam us and waste their time. And in fact, it doesn't add value to your brand, it detracts it. So if you've got a really worthwhile message to share, you've got a problem that you're solving, tell it in a way that engages me. Tell it in a way that I want to learn more and will engage with you, rather than just telling me I sell stuff. The next thing we're going to have a dive into, we alluded to earlier on, is the importance of building that customer database. CRM systems have been around for the best part of 30 years now. They had Salesforce tools that were there before that, and even before that, you might have come across some older salespeople who used to keep cards with all their customer details in it. These are a simple approach of knowing who you're doing business with. And I think working that out and building up a decent database can't be underestimated in terms of an effort you've got to go to your business. The number of particularly retail businesses that we walk into, who we ask them who their customers are, and they say, oh, I'm not sure. Well, we think they are these kind of people. Well, let's look at the data. We've never collected that information. You look at the large national retailers now, though, and they recognise the immense value of it. Pretty much every one of them has a loyalty program with the objective, not of giving you any extra gifts or anything like that for being loyal, but for being able to see who their most valuable customers are, make sure that they keep engaging with them, and to be able to identify when they stop coming. Because that's something that often a lot of us do. For one reason or another, you'll stop attending a business, and being able to keep that process engaged is really valuable. So what is a CRM system? Well, It's a model for managing your interactions with all of your current and future customers. It's a single source of truth or repository of information that has everything to do with those customers. And in today's world, thanks to those APIs we mentioned earlier on, you have the opportunity to plug that directly in to perhaps your point of sale system, to your accounting system, even to the website and other business systems that you may be operating, so that you've got that unified view of who the customer is and what they're engaging with you. So I guess the simpler way of saying that is, know the customer, know the business. And if you start that process of identifying who they are, segmenting them down, giving them messages which are meaningful for them personally, and rather than the old days of an email blast out for everybody, recognise that not everybody's at the same point on that customer map that we saw earlier. So you want to target the messages for people wherever they may be at that point in time. Give you an example of 2 emails I received a couple of weeks back, which show the dichotomy between the traditional spray and pray and a very targeted approach. The one on the right came from a local shop, which is part of a national chain, and that has a generic set of products that I may well have bought last week and discovered that, gee, you're dropping 25% off it this week, but it's a spray and pray. Everybody gets the same message. It's okay, it's better than not doing anything, but at the same time, it can, end up in the spam folder. The one on the right comes from the company which I think have been in the online marketing space or online retailing space longer than anyone else, and that's a division of Amazon, their Audible product. And they'd looked that I had listened to a particular book, and based on my reading of that particular book and the amount of time that I took to read it or listen to it, they've suggested 2 or 3 other books which might be of interest to me because I read that and was interested in it. So they've taken the data they had available on me, taken the model algorithms they had to say these are similar sort of things, if you like this, you'll like that, and came back with a set of recommendations. And that's very much not next level, that's 10 levels up of digital marketing. But the difference is that's the kind of thing which actually gets people to stay with you these days. If you've subscribed to, well, maybe not today, if you'd subscribed to Skyscanner a few years ago, if you went to their website, had a look at any of their flights, they'd come back to you a day or 2 later saying, hey, we found a better deal than one we found 2 days ago. Here's the flight to go here. They're not doing that these days. Next thing to take a jump into is looking at how we actually reach new customers. Now, advertising has a really valuable place in the market for getting people that early stage of reach. So online advertising can help you build that brand awareness and reach those new people in a really effective way. It helps you spread your information to the right people and encourage buyer behaviour along the way. But done well, it can actually introduce you to people who are looking to solve a problem that you can. If you look at, for example, we'll go back to that example of a lawyer. I'm looking for, let's say, a family lawyer. Now, it might be something where I'm not super comfortable about asking family friends and for a recommendation, so off I'll go to the search engines. And the search engines will present a list of options there, and they'll also present some ads which sit above those options. And those ads can be a really valuable way of gaining market presence for somebody who's just moved into that space. So they can fit in each of the steps of our customer buying cycle. At the C stage, we've got the opportunity to, that's before people perhaps know that they've got an issue or a problem. We can present those ads out there via YouTube, via the display ads that you see across countless websites, and also in your search ads. And as people start to become more engaged and look and search for particular terms, there'll be keywords and search terms which help us identify where they are in that process. So they might have gone to the next stage of looking for divorce process or parenting agreement templates. And when they've done that, we can start to recognise that they're in a different step of the process. We can present them with the ads that match to that and help drive them to the exact right spots on our website. One of the things that's often overlooked with it is we're not looking to drop everyone onto the homepage. We're looking to take them to the parts of our website or the videos that we've got to share with them, which communicate the answer to the questions they've got in that process at that time. We then move through to the action, which is where they're looking to do something, and then post-sale engagement. So we don't have to stop advertising to them once they've purchased something. We can continue to engage with them through that process. Facebook's another one which fits into the puzzle as well. And we've got to look at the full section of Facebook's ad platforms, and both Facebook and Instagram, and these days Messenger as well. They've got a huge array of tools that are available for us to use in our online space. And between Google and Facebook today, they account for more than half of all advertising spend in Australia. So if you look at your own advertising budget and you're not spending half of it in these platforms, you probably, unless you're doing something really strategic and clever, you might be missing out on some of the opportunities that are there for you. Advertising can go so far to help us win business, but our reputation will help us convert the business. And what people think about us in terms of the reviews that we have out there are a really valid thing that we need to sort of look in that message that we're going to share. So 50 to 7% of customers will only use a business if it's got more than 4 stars. Now, I've known this to be intuitively true for a long time. It's one of those things that we all, when you go to book a hotel room or you go to book a service or, maybe not a hairdresser in my case, but you engage with a particular service, we'll always look, subconsciously at least, if not explicitly, at the reviews on that business. But have you considered that people look at these reviews for other reasons? One of my daughters recently went to have her nails done, and they charged a 50% deposit to have your nails done at this particular business in Bunbury. And I said, "Are you happy paying a 50% deposit?" And the response was immediate as it was unthought, which is, "Oh, Dad, they've got 150 reviews, all 5 stars. I know I can trust them." And the recognition that that reputation had flowed through into other parts of their business is something that a lot of us perhaps don't really consider. So building that reputation and looking at how we actively manage that rather than just letting it be done to us is something that we'd strongly advocate for any business, a B2B service, a B2C, or business to business, business to consumer, whatever it happens to be. We've all been trained to really look at those star ratings and the reputations that businesses have got in quite detail. In local businesses, it's even stronger. According to the study done by Bright Local, 86% of consumers read the reviews for local businesses. And often, we'll all get caught into the trap of worrying about a 1-star review that we've got. When, if we look at the review, sometimes we've earned it. Sometimes we really have let the customer down. And in those instances, we need to look at how we respond to it. And ownership is a huge thing with that. Other times, maybe the customer's partially to blame. We had one entity recently which got a 1-star review because a customer came back 3 days later when they found their entertainment book voucher, and a business wouldn't give them their 25% back that they would have got if they'd used the entertainment book voucher on the night. Now, when they left that as a review, it was a fairly easy thing to respond to, say, "Look, we're sorry, that's the terms and conditions of the entertainment book. We couldn't offer you that rebate." But it helps people look at it and go, "Oh, they've got the 1-star reviews, but the people are perhaps 1-star people." When you've earned these reviews, show them proudly. They should be displayed on your website. You can have the opportunity to use them there. You should also be using them perhaps in your marketing and really validly in your market research. If you're doing something well, it's great understanding what part of that your customers value. Across some of our customers, we've looked at, across hundreds of reviews they've got, picking out the common words and themes that people have adopted through them to say, these are the things which we perhaps hadn't thought about ourselves, but we must be pretty good at. Equally on the negative, if there's things that keep coming up, then we've got to look at that and say, these issues in our business that we need to solve, they may be product issues, they may be service issues, or sometimes they may be expectation issues. We've set our expectations at a level that we just are not going to be able to deliver. So let's refocus that and bring our marketing back more into an authentic level. And with all of this information that we're collecting, that's a great example of it. One of the things we'd strongly advocate every business doing is accessing all of that data to develop information and ultimately insights based on what's happening. Now, we have a lot of tools that are available for us in our online marketing space. At a bare minimum, the numbers which we should be looking at are our Google Analytics numbers, which will tell us who's visiting our website, how often are they visiting it, how many pages, what pages matter, and what processes do they go through before they ultimately convert with us. So we can look at streamlining that process. We should be looking at our Facebook analytics as well, or insights in Facebook, to work out, again, what the type of customer is, whether the perception that we had of our ideal customer persona matches the data that we're collecting and the people that we're engaging with on our social media. It might be that we've said our target market, is a female between 36 and 44. But because of the type of thing that we're posting and the type of message we're putting out, we might be hitting a completely different audience. So using that data to match those two up, and building yourself a set of dashboards that relate to this are really valid. The other thing that can't be overstated is the importance of bringing in real business metrics to it too. The digital metrics are really valid, but the other metrics like your P&L coming out of your accounting software, your stock turns coming out of your inventory management, those things help feed into our decision-making process to help us make the right call in terms of where we take our business. Each of these areas takes a considerable amount of energy and effort to make work for you. But the data is our feedback process. It's the loop that we need to get right in order to be able to go forward. This brings us to the end of the presentation today. I'm really keen to answer some questions if anyone has them, and I'll thank you all for attending.
All right. Maybe not race away though, Anthony. Come back here. Look, thank you so much. It's quite a navigation process, isn't it, to putting your business online. So we really appreciate you taking us through all those processes and, more importantly, actually enjoying success with that as well. I have just noticed Robin put up on the chat, Woolworths rewards program is great at making suggestions of special offers based on your buying behaviour. I know I've experienced that as well. A great process that they have embarked on.
It is, yeah. And it can seem overwhelming to a small business. We can look at it and think, well, I don't have a team of IT experts like a Woolworths. I don't have all those resources. But what you do have is access to time. And often you have those personal relationships with people. I sometimes look at the way that business was done 100 years ago, where you'd go into the local grocery shop and they'd know that you'd been baking scones yesterday, and they'd have a packet of flour out on the counter ready for you as you walked in. And we can achieve that as small businesses with the technology that we have, with the people that we have and the insights that we have unique with our customers, to just have that real personal experience.
Yeah, personal experience. So look, just to quickly recap on some of those points. Actually, hang on, Louise has asked us a question as well. Should I have a business name at Gmail email or use my domain as an email? It's more money, but how does that impact on credibility?
It's a really valid question. And I don't know about anyone else, but one of the first things I look at in an email address when somebody sends it to me, particularly if they're offering me something which is unsolicited, maybe SEO services or product or service online. They're saying, it comes from scammer39@gmail.com. You're probably looking at it and going, I'm running the other way. But having the business name there is a big credibility builder. And again, it's something you own. You own that email address, it belongs to you.
Yeah, all right. So improve the credibility. We like to see that. So just recapping quickly then on some of the key points that we have heard today. To think about taking your business online, look at why you started your business and why you're moving it online. I mean, clearly we all want to make a profit, but there's a bit more to it than that.
There is. There is. It is ultimately, a business isn't there to make money. It's there to solve a problem. And it just so happens that customers exchange value with you to solve that problem. And so going back to that core purpose of what's the problem we solve and how do we make that solution as valuable as possible to people, then our online marketing becomes part of that puzzle.
Again, really thinking about the why. So consider your customer journey and how you interact with your customers. Another big point that you have made.
It's so important to know where they are, where your customers are in their process through engagement with you. Without that, it's a bit like throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks.
Yeah, not necessarily a good way of doing it at all, is it? All right, and lastly, the big one, omni-channel. Being online is more than just a website or a Facebook page. It is a consolidated and integrated approach for your customers.
Work a plan. Develop a plan and work that plan. Don't rely on any tool individually and really bring your whole story together across all those tools to deliver the best outcome.
Yeah, okay, great words. Anthony, thank you very much. And look, if anyone would like an appointment with Anthony to discuss their sort of specific business needs and online presence, please do contact Rethink Marketing, and we're going to send you Anthony's details, of course, when we send out the recording to you all. Just a reminder that this was the first in a series of 4 business improvement workshops. Now, the next workshop is about online best practice, which will be hosted by David Harrison from Too Easy Computing. David actually joined us in-house here today for this presentation today, so I better say something nice about you, hadn't I, David? Look, not difficult at all. David is going to delve into what is a very relevant subject for all businesses online, and that, of course, is security and how best practices to use to protect your business from cyber attacks. So it's going to be very, very fascinating. So if you would like to register for that next workshop, please visit the BSW Connect website. That's lowercase bswconnect.com.au. Look, thank you again to Anthony. It's always fascinating to listen to you talk and delve into that world. Thank you to all of us that joined us today. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you all again for next week. Thank you.